And welcome on into the latest edition of the Blue Horseshoe Podcast. George Bremer, Ryan Hickey here with you behind enemy lines. Here he is, Blaine Bishop. You know him as a four-time Pro Bowl defensive back for the Tennessee Titans. Also does a great job, 1045 host The Zone down in Nashville. Blaine, for us, at least me and George are talking all week. This week feels different. This is like a true rivalry. This is truly the arch nemesis for the Colts. Down in Nashville, is there a mutual feeling?
No doubt about it. Arch nemesis, shoot, man. Well, Peyton Manning, luck. I don't think who ever lost to the Titans ever, and you're playing twice a year. So I think the Titans now may have won 5 in a row or somewhere thereabout. But yeah, it's a heated rivalry in the AFC South. Usually, one of these two teams are winning the AFC South, and you guys had a nice new little toy and a weapon there at quarterback. So we'll see how the Titans fare. Who are in transition. They don't want to admit it, but they're in somewhat of a transition. But guys still playing at a high level, and hopefully they can still be competitive and compete for the AFC South and squeak into the playoffs.
I saw talk earlier in the week down there. I think it was Mike Vrabel, may have been one of the players, said if Jonathan Taylor's practicing, he's playing. They're preparing for it that way. As a player, do you have to sort of take that mindset?
Yeah, I think you have to assume all the great players are going to be available, especially with the open window that he can come back once he starts practicing, even if it's a walkthrough. I know they had a couple overtime games, and also you got to look. He's very motivated. The clock starts ticking, and him to get accredited for this season, and why not set that tone going against the nemesis of the Titans in the AFC South? So that'll be two weapons you have to kind of play against. So it's going to be tough sledding for the Titans to see they haven't won a game on the road. I know it's still early yet. First quarter just kind of ended. But they definitely have to prove that they can play better on the road than they do at home. So this is the first test of AFC South. It's always going to be competitive and counts as two. So we shall see.
You joked before, Blaine, about Andrew Luck, Peyton Manning, kind of, thorns in the Titans side. One thorn in the Colts side, especially in recent years, has been Derrick Henry. And you kind of look so far, it's been an interesting year for King Henry. He came into at least last week's game against the Bengals, 3.2 yards per carry, lowest of his career. Then explodes, kind of looked like peak Derrick Henry again on Sunday, 122 yards, ran for a touchdown, threw for a touchdown. Was that an anomaly on Sunday where he's still maybe not peak Derrick Henry, or do you think Sunday is one of those turning points where, the first maybe 3 or 4 games was tough, but now all of a sudden he's really kind of raring to go in midseason form?
Well, there's been a lot of question if Derrick Henry's still the same Derrick Henry. And a lot of people are saying that he's not the same player. Maybe he's not the breakaway guy because he hadn't had any breakaways even last season. And I beg to differ. It was hard for me to actually tell if he had lost a step or not. I thought in the games last season, he broke loose and guys just got him before he got going. That was kind of my perspective. This season, I think it's a little bit different in that they're transitioning with a new offensive coordinator, and he's trying to implement Tajay Spears as well as having a lot more balance and not just Derrick Henry, the king, and balance that all out to around all the players that they have and use Derrick Henry actually as a key cog to that for the setup for certain plays. So I think they were going through and playing really good defenses. So I think Derrick Henry is still Derrick Henry. And if they need to rely on him to run the football, 30 times a game, I think he's more than capable. Actually shown some short area quickness, which is, I would say, the weakness of his game. And when I'm talking about that, being a former running back in high school, is like when someone gets in the backfield and penetrates, he can't start and stop real quick like a smaller 5'10" guy. Well, he's shown that even on the 29-yard, 30-yard run. Not only can he break tackles in power, but he shows short area quickness, which I hadn't seen from him at all, really, very rarely. So I think he's just starting to get revved up. So the Colts, also, we must not forget, this is where he got injured in his foot a couple years ago. So the turf monster there took his 5th metacarpal and kind of ruined his season anyway. So it's going to be a lot of memories, let alone it's the Colts. So it's always going to be a battle.
On the other side of the ball, Jeffrey Simmons in particular, with that entire defensive front, so imposing for Tennessee, and it feels like during this 5-game winning streak in particular, just really bullied the Colts, shut down anything the Colts wanted to do. It looked like, at least in the last time out against Cincinnati, they were all over Joe Burrow, made it very difficult for the Bengals to get anything going. Is that been a consistent thing this year, or was that maybe just a high point last week?
I think that is definitely the strength of the team, let alone the defense, is the front four. Whoever's there with Key, Landry, Big Jeff, who's the number one guy, and Autry, who's a former Colt, who's played well. One of the best signings actually they had on the defensive side of the ball in free agency. So he continues to play at a high level for an older guy in this league and understands how to pass rush. So yeah, they've been the strength. I think they've been a little inconsistent. You get to see that they're not as dominant when you then play the Browns and see how dominant they were versus our team. But they've been really, really good. So they must continue to be at the forefront of the team if this team wants to have success, not only in this game, but also this season. I think the secondary has shown that they can give up some explosive plays this last week against the Bengals, which is an anomaly because they weren't really throwing deep a lot because of Burrow and his calf. That they didn't give up an explosive play over 25 yards. So every game there's been 2, 3, 4, 5 explosive plays. So they must not give up the explosive plays. With that kind of front, it should be a little bit easier. Nothing's easy about playing in the secondary, as I would know. But it's always good when you don't have explosive plays and you have great pass rushers to get after the quarterback. And also, last week, Burrow couldn't run. Richardson can run, and he can run fast. And he may be just as fast as the fastest guy on the Titans defense. And when he makes his mind up to run, it's kind of interesting, man. He's a bolt of lightning for a guy that big. So I don't think they've seen anything like that. Watson was a maneuver in the pocket. He can run. We all know that. But I think he still looks down the field to actually throw until he's forced to run. I think Richardson now is such a young player. When he takes off, he tries to run like he's a running back. And that may bode well now as a young player. But as he gets older and the season goes along, I think he'll start growing into an elite player where you got to pick your spots.
I think you'll hear a common phrase screamed on Sunday: slide. If he starts running out of the pocket, get down. He's gotten hit a bunch and has struggled to finish games. Yeah, I think you'll hear a lot of cheers if Richardson runs and then slides, prevents getting hit.
It's at the time.
Yeah.
Wait, did he go practice at the baseball stadium with the Indians there?
Needs to. He needs to. He told us that he had slid 7 times in his career before the season. So I think the other day made 8. We're trying to keep count, trying to keep track of this.
It's always tough when you have an athletic quarterback like that who can run like him. You know, it's like Vic and all these guys where when they start running, they start just being an athlete and been running like they're running back. And then they haven't been used to sliding. And it's kind of second nature for them to continue to run. And so now they have to think about it. And when you start thinking about it, sometimes it can put you in compromising positions when you're running the football. And then all of a sudden, last minute, you try to slide and you say, oh, I'm supposed to slide. And then you don't. And then you slide halfway and then somebody gets you, somebody hits you coming across the bow. So it's always a tough transition for those guys like that, man. What is he, 6'4", 6'5", and running 4.4, and man, that's just insane just to hear that. And then, I loved him coming out. I have to say that he was my number one quarterback on my board. Especially, I'm real big on the mentality on what's in between the ears in certain positions. And that position we all know is the toughest mentally to do. And when I heard him in an interview and just had to sit down with him, it changed my whole thought process of who he could become. Because that's really ultimately what helps every player, whether you're a superstar player talent-wise or you're just a good, solid player in the National Football League. Well, in between the years will really determine what kind of success you will have in the National Football League, regardless. And he's got it.
Speaking of which, Blaine, you being a defensive guy and obviously hitting on Richardson here, how would you defend him if you're Mike Vrabel on Sunday? Do you expect maybe blitz-heavy, looks from this defense to kind of speed him up and confuse him? Or we've seen, at least early on, a lot of teams rush 4, drop 7, and try to kind of bait him into getting impatient and forcing throws. How would you, if you were defensive coordinator Sunday, Blaine, try to slow down and stop Anthony Richardson?
Boy, I'm glad I wouldn't have to be out there trying to determine what to do. Well, what I can say, you're going to have to pick your spots blitzing. Here's what I've learned as a player. This was as a player. We got beat by Ryan Lee. And he's a good player. Big arm. This is when he was a rookie. All that. Guess what? Oh, we're going to get after the quarterback. Well, we made it easy for him because there are no reads to to do. All you do is throw the ball. You know we're in man-to-man, we're blitzing. So you have to pick your spots and maybe do more some zone blitz schemes where you show 4 on one side, then you bring 3 on the other. You get your protection. He doesn't see it coming. You disguise things in the secondary. You do what I would call a rover, maybe somebody who's kind of matching up with him if he scrambles around a lot throughout the game. You got to have a packaging for that. So I think you have to do a combination of things. I would lean more on confusion than blitzing. Because I think you got to say, let him try to be as accurate as he can be on intermediate routes. And you play a lot of zone, all kind of bodies of Titans players everywhere, and then squeezing into a spot, because those are the things that are tougher for him than actually identifying, oh, they're blitzing. I'm going to determine who I'm throwing 1, 2, 3. I would say confusion and hesitation. Hold on to the rock. You got a good front 4. Let them go to work. Got to have contain, though.
How you do?
Yeah, absolutely. There's no doubt he's a different kind of a beast. You mentioned sitting down with him. I think for me, what's been the most impressive thing, a little bit of time that we've had around so far, maturity. He doesn't seem like a 21-year-old. Does that help at that position? I mean, the guys that you were around at quarterback, when you've got sort of that natural leader, does it make a difference in the locker room?
I would say so. That's kind of a no-brainer to me. If you've been playing that position long enough, that those qualities should already be there. That should be something have to develop. Now, the confidence you have in what you can do at that level, those players are always confident, but then they have to start executing and start seeing the vision and seeing success. And I think he has all those qualities. Man, you got one there, but. Man, I think he's going to be really good. And, he was coveted coming out of high school. We got to, look back at his history. This guy is a really good athlete, but sometimes great athletes don't make great players. And that's why I talked about when I sat down and heard him in an interview, you understand, this guy is serious about his craft. And to me, that's no different than all the elite players that came into this league that were quarterbacks from Peyton Manning at your organization. And the list goes on. And those qualities those guys have. He's got it. He's got it. Now, how well he do on the field, we shall see. But he's got all the quiet. There should be no excuse where he's not, one of the better players in the National Football League when we're talking 3, 4, 5 years down the road here.
Going back to something you said earlier, Blaine, about the Titans trying to achieve more balance on offense, run pass, that is. You look at this Colts matchup specifically, their strength on defense is their front 7. They have injuries and now a lot of inexperience in the secondary. Do you expect, if you're Tennessee, maybe a little bit more pass happy play calling compared to maybe normal what we've seen the last few years?
I won't go say pass happy, but I mean, I want it to be more balanced. And when I'm saying balance, it is that they're now, they had balance before. It just seems like it was always king. But the balance now is, instead on first down, you use play action pass to Henry, and now you're throwing down the field. If you go watch some of the tapes, 2 of the games, they use him as a decoy, play action pass to him on first down, on running that stretch, and then boom, throw down the field vertically and completing passes for over 40 yards. 70 yards to Burks in one of the games. I think Chris Moore is averaging 33 yards a catch, and he doesn't even start. And so that shows you this deep ball. So that's what I'm talking about, balance. When now change it up every game. You can't be so predictable. Yeah, that you're going to give the ball to Henry, then Henry getting the handoff and then throwing the football. Just using him more so like that, let alone hammering you. And then you bring in the gadget guy, Tajay Spears, who I think they may find more ways to get him the ball in the passing game. He's shown he can run in between the tackles, a 5'10", little squirt from Tulane, a draft pick 3rd round, who really is a dynamic player, an explosive little player that he's my size. So he's a guy that maybe durability at some point may be an issue, but right now he looks like he's helping making this offense look a little different than in the past.
Last one for me. When you play Blaine, you play with quarterback, obviously, and Steve McNair, who could absolutely kill teams with his running ability. And then Eddie George was in the backfield with him. And there's been a lot of talk this week about the Jonathan Taylor, Anthony Richardson combo and what that could look like. You've been, in practice every day. What is it like when you've got that kind of threat, both at the quarterback position and the running back spot?
Well, I would have assumed that it was an opposing scaring other defense. But we never going live at practice. But thinking about when you have a quarterback that not only throw the football but also can run. You have a dynamic duo there, and especially in that offense and the way they run the RPOs. If it was me, and I was a big film junkie guy because I kind of had a photographic memory to a certain extent. Uh, I would be going back watching Philadelphia film when Hurts first started, when he was the offensive coordinator with whoever was at running back, and kind of get a better feel for what they like to do besides just these games that they play this season. With the kind of a dynamic running back, because that this offense, the RPOs and everything else, you want to see how he's trying to manage Steichen through this offense with his players, and now he has an elite running back now, that can impact the game in a lot of different ways. So it's going to be an interesting matchup because everybody's going to be pumped up there in Indianapolis with Taylor back. You would assume. I know there's a lot of talk and narrative around, how it is in the locker room and all those different things and the fans. But once he's on the field and he starts producing and shows that he's one of the elite running backs in the National Football League, that'll all be forgotten.
Finally, Blaine, Titans are 2-point favorites on the road here against the Colts. So let me ask you this. So Vegas predicts, right? At least I believe that was
no, that's right.
I was gonna say. That's the line. A lot of sharp money coming in for the Colts here of late. So let me ask you this: on the Colts win the game on Sunday, if.
Ooh. Well, I'm gonna say this about the line. I never paid attention to Vegas as a player, and I pay attention more now doing radio. I think that line switch, it was also the Colts at first initially, and then now it waved back to the Titans. That's why I was looking like that, because I knew it waved back. So I don't, man, those division games are always so close. It's a coin toss. It's one turnover, one bad play, one big play away. I think the Colts win if they have 3 or more explosive plays, whether that's the running back, quarterback, or wide receivers. 3 or more over 25 yards. Yeah, that means it's going in their favor, because Titans can't win games giving up, I think, 4 explosive plays a game, and that's kind of been the routine. So, except for last week.
Beautiful. Blaine, appreciate the time. It should be a lot of fun on Sunday. I know, again, it's been years of suffering for the Titans, but I'll be honest here, this short 5-game losing streak for the Colts against the Titans, it's been hell. It's been truly hell. So
really?
This is sucked. Yeah.
Oh, so there's been a big talk. The Titans what do the players say? What are they saying about the 5-game losing streak? Or do they act like it hadn't happened? Or is it a lot of different players on the team now who, like, hadn't played in those games?
Yeah, I asked Zaire about it this week because I just want to. I said I know that the teams change every year and the players change every year, so it's different. Does this 5-game losing streak matter? And he tried to play it down. He said no. It's a big game because it's Tennessee. It doesn't matter what happened if we won 5 or lost 5. It's still going to be a big physical football game.
Yeah, well, it always is. So I always look forward to those games because, man, it's a heated rivalry that I think is under the radar in the National Football League as far as right. But man, this usually dictates who wins the AFC South. So I'm always all in, watching the game 3 and 4 times, man. Yeah, I love it.
A lot of fun. Blaine, thanks for coming behind enemy lines with us.
Appreciate it, guys, man. Anytime, especially for all my Indy family and friends. Thank you, guys.